Think of this. D.Y. Chandrachud, U.U. Lalit, K.M. Joseph. What do these names have in common? Their fathers were either Chief Justices or senior judges of the Supreme Court. Not just this, 6 of the 27 Supreme Court justices has fathers as Supreme Court or High Court judges. Take the case of the Palkhiwala family or the Hidayatullah family, which boasts multiple generations of judges and legal luminaries. Such families have created a legacy that's hard to break into. Critics argue that such dominance perpetuates a cycle where power and influence remain concentrated, making it nearly impossible for outsiders to rise purely on merit. Imagine a first-generation law graduate from a small town. Despite excelling in academics, they struggle to find mentorship and opportunities in big city courts, dominated by these family networks. Such barriers often push talented individuals away, depriving the judiciary of diverse voices. So, how many of you knew that some families have been running India's highest court for generations? Let's dive deeper to know more. Since independence, only 250 to 300 families have sent judges to the Supreme Court. Therefore, nepotism is not only confined to Bollywood or politics, it is prevalent in the judiciary as well. It sometimes feels like a family heirloom passed down through generations, like a prized possession. Doesn't it make you a little uncomfortable? This phenomena is often known as the uncle judge syndrome, where kids and kins of senior advocates and judges are given easy access to the judicial system. If your father, uncle, or any relative holds a favorable position in the judiciary, the doors to a promising legal career open wide. A study shows that around 50% of the judges in the High Courts and 33% of judges in the Supreme Court are family members of senior judicial members. This creates a series of problems. First, it prevents individuals from diverse backgrounds from building a career in law. Second, it damages the public trust and confidence in India's judicial system, hampering democracy in the long run. However, the question that arises is why nepotism and favoritism are perpetuated in the judiciary on such a large scale. The answer to this is the collegium system. But to understand why nepotism persists at such a scale, we need to go back in time and explore the historical context behind this legacy. Some family names keep popping up in the Indian judiciary, and their dominance traces back to the colonial era, where legal practice was often confined to the landed and urban elites. This legacy persisted post-independence, creating judicial dynasties like the Chandrachuds and Narimans. For instance, if you are the child of a top lawyer, you grow up around courtrooms, books, and legal discussions. You also get access to prestigious internships, mentorships, and opportunities others can only dream of. This, coupled with the opaque collegium system, is the reason why a few families dominate the judiciary. Now, let's understand the collegium a little more closely. Constitutionally, Articles 124(2) and 217 deal with the appointment of judges to the Supreme Court and the High Courts. These provisions require the President to appoint judges in consultation with key figures such as the Chief Justice of India, state governors, and High Court Chief Justices. However, a turning point came in 1973. The appointment of Justice A.N. Ray as the Chief Justice of India by Indira Gandhi government, suppressing 3 other senior-most judges of the Supreme Court, is often attributed as a direct attack on the independence of the judiciary. This urged the need for a new system in place that would keep away political influence from hampering justice. Finally, the collegium system emerged in the 1990s after the landmark 3 judges cases, fundamentally altering the way judges are appointed to higher courts in India. The collegium, a mechanism central to judicial appointments and transfers, is not mentioned in the constitution. However, this new system too has come under scrutiny. But what's wrong with the collegium system? Let's explore. First, there is a total exclusion of the executive because a few judges appoint others in a secretive way. Moreover, they are not accountable to any administrative body in case a wrong candidate has been chosen. Second, the system fails to provide definite criteria for testing the candidate, attracting criticisms for deep-rooted favoritism in the entire process. Third, the collegium system gives uncontrolled power to the judiciary, and we all know power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. The principle of checks and balances, which is the cornerstone of democracy, is violated in broad daylight. As a result, the excessive powers of the judiciary go unchecked. Fourth, there have been serious allegations of underrepresentation of women, religious minorities, and marginalized communities in the higher judiciary, all thanks to the collegium system. Since independence, women have made up only around 4% of Supreme Court judges. Scheduled castes and scheduled tribes are even lesser, highlighting the lack of diversity. It has faced a series of criticism due to lack of transparency, accountability, and democracy. Former Finance Minister Arun Jaitley compared the appointment system with the Gymkhana Club, where present members appoint the future ones. Former Union Law Minister Kiran Rijiju criticized the system for perpetuating the uncle judge syndrome, arguing that the appointments are often influenced by proximity to decision makers rather than merits and achievements. He even said that judges are often engaged in deciding who will be the next judge, ignoring the primary job of delivering justice. It is not just the BJP. The collegium system has been criticized by leaders across political parties. Kapil Sibal has repeatedly opened up about its opacity and undemocratic practices. Raghav Chadha of the Aam Aadmi Party has pointed out the elitism and the absence of diverse voices in the judiciary. So, if the collegium system is flawed, what's the alternative? The National Judicial Appointments Commission Act 2014 was unanimously passed by both the houses of the parliament and was an attempt to reform the collegium system. It aimed to provide politicians and civil society a final say in the appointment of judges to the highest courts. However, the Supreme Court in its 2015 judgment scrapped the NJAC Act on the ground that this procedure contained chances of political influence, citing it to be unconstitutional and a threat to judicial independence. After this, the executive and judiciary found themselves in a fierce battle of blame game. While the former complained of lack of accountability and transparency, the latter blamed the government for delays in clearing names for appointment of judges. However, the government has numbers to back itself. Between 2014 to 2021, the government appointed an average of 92 High Court judges per year, much more than 76 between 2006 and 2014. Former CJI of India, Justice N.V. Ramana, during his tenure supported the collegium system, stating no other way can be more democratic. However, post-retirement, his stance softened and he accepted that concerns about the existing methodology must be addressed. The very famous Harish Salve supports executive intervention in appointments. He opines that some of the finest judges in India came from the system where the executive appointed the judges. If the executive maintains a fine balance of independence and accountability, it would ensure a proper balance of power among all the branches of the government. Even B.R. Ambedkar rejected the notion of judges appointing judges because it creates an imperium in imperio, a state within a state. An attempt was made with the introduction of the National Judicial Commission Bill 2022 in the Rajya Sabha to establish a body that will regulate the appointments and transfer of judges. But the future of the bill is uncertain as it awaits approval. However, one thing is clear. Judicial reforms to strengthen merit, diversity, and fairness in the judiciary remains a priority for policymakers and a significant concern for the public. Many senior leaders like Upendra Kushwaha, an ally of the NDA, regard the collegium system to be undemocratic and have promised to make efforts in this direction. The dominance of certain families in the judiciary is a complex issue, rooted in history, nepotism, and a flawed appointment system. While reforms are necessary, finding the right balance between judicial independence, transparency, and diversity remain the biggest challenge. This is Sampriti. See you in the next one.